Hello and welcome to Distributed Systems and Blockchain in the News. My name is Thomas Bocek, and the first article we have in this week is about clouds. It's the following article here. In this article, a company successfully reduced its operational costs by moving from AWS to a bare metal solution, saving over $230,000 per year. Initially, they were using AWS Elastic Kubernetes Service for their open source observability platform. It's one uptime. And the company recognized that their service could run more cost effectively someplace else. So they moved to bare metal, and they are using colocation for that. And for this transition, they are using Micro K8s. So it's the following project here. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Micro Kubernetes IO, whatever it's called. And this proved to be a robust choice even for production, and it's not just for edge computing or development. So this they are using in production as well. And the transition enabled dedicated resources, resolving the noisy neighbor problem that happens if you are on a cloud. You are shared resources, and the neighbor, the tenant also on your machine does lots of things, and you will have the penalty for that. So you have more waiting time, for example. This control allowed for optimized performance and efficiency with customization from operating system and storage types. So you have the full control over your stack. And technologies like Kubernetes, so they still use Kubernetes, and Helm charts, they helped with this transition, streamlining the process of moving from cloud to a private server. So they are still using cloud technologies, Kubernetes, Helm charts, but they're self-hosting it. And regarding the storage and load balancing, the company, they are using NFS, network file system, and metal LB for their bare metal Kubernetes cluster. And they also then talked about their financial impact. So before the migration, the AWS cost per month was over $38,000 per month. And after the migration, it went down to $5,500 per month. But of course, they had to do the transition, and this transition costs roughly $150,000. So this will be amortized quite quickly. And the company also talked, or in this blog, they also talk about backups, multi-location clusters, backup of clusters for emergencies. And they also address the need for server administrators, and highlighting that the colocation facilities, they do much of the hardware maintenance. So if hardware breaks, they don't need to run, because this colocation facility does this job for them. And this also reduces obviously the costs. So in conclusion, while cloud services like AWS offer flexibility, they might not always be the most economical. And the company's transition to bare metal, leveraging open source technologies, brought greater control and cost savings. And to be fair, they could have used EC2 instances on AWS, but this would not solve the noisy neighbor problem, because there you also have shared resources, and it would still be more expensive than the current $5,500 per month. Yeah, reducing the monthly fee from 38K to 5 to 5K, this is really impressive. The next article is about the cryptocurrency USDT. Tether behind USDT is a major player in the cryptocurrency ecosystem. So if we go to CoinMarketCap, we see USDT is here placed third, so it's quite huge. And in collaboration with OKX, which is another exchange, and the US Department of Justice, they have voluntarily frozen about 225 million USDT tokens. And these tokens were linked to an international human trafficking syndicate in the Southeast Asia involved in a pig butchering romance scam. So what is pig butchering? A pig butchering romance scam involves a scammer building a romantic relationship with a victim, then convinces the victim to invest money, and once the victim invests a significant amount of money, the scammer disappears with the funds. And this action represents the largest ever freeze on USDT, demonstrating that despite operating on the decentralized blockchain, for example Ethereum, the regulators and companies can have a certain control over these digital assets. And the freeze was a result of a joint investigation using the blockchain analysis tool from Chainalysis, and the investigation allowed Tether and OKX to provide US law enforcement with information of these illicit funds flow through the blockchain. Tether's CEO emphasized that their commitment to safety and transparency in the crypto space, indicating a willingness to work with global law enforcement. Similarly, OKX Chief Investigation Officer highlighted their proactive approach to collaborate with industry stakeholders and mainly US law enforcement. And this incident shows that while cryptocurrencies like USDT may operate on a decentralized system or on a decentralized platform, regulatory agencies and companies themselves can still play an important role in overseeing and influencing these digital assets, especially in the context of illegal activities. The next two articles involve the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, and the first article is about Kraken. It's from the SEC side directly here. So the US Securities and Exchange Commission has charged Kraken, a crypto trading platform, with operating as an unregistered securities exchange, broker, dealer, and clearing agency. The SEC's complaint states that since September 2018, Kraken has been unlawfully facilitating the buying and selling of crypto asset securities without registering these functions. And this lack of registration has allegedly deprived investors of critical protections, such as SEC inspections and safeguards against conflicts of interests. And Kraken is accused of mixed customer funds with its own, leading to a significant risk for its customers. And actually here, this point where they mix the funds, this is a bit scary. So we remember the case of FTX, they also mix the funds. The other big news is around Binance and Zhao. Changpeng Zhao, the CEO of Binance, the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange, has resigned and pleaded guilty to the US anti-money laundering law violations, leading to a settlement in which Binance will pay 4.3 billion US dollars in fines. This resolution addresses both criminal and civil allegations, with Zhao personally agreeing to a $50 million criminal fine. The case reflecting the intensifying regulatory scrutiny of the cryptocurrency industry, particularly in the US, marks a significant moment in the ongoing efforts to enforce legal and financial compliance within this rapidly evolving sector. And Zhao's departure from his executive role while retaining still a majority of the shares, so retaining still ownership, and the substantial fines imposed, underlying the seriousness of the charges and the commitment of the US authorities to regulate the crypto market. So that's it for this week, and I was asked about whether one should leave their funds on Kraken or on Binance, or have it maybe on the hardware wallet. And I always remind of the case of FTX, where they also mixed customer funds with company funds, and then this blew up and lots of people lost their money. So my advice is, so if you want to remain in control of your cryptocurrency assets, then use non-custodial solutions. Can be a hardware wallet, can be a paper wallet. The problem there is, so these are your keys, you're responsible for it. If you lose it, you also lose the funds. On the other hand, you have control over this. If your money is on, for example, was on FTX, then your money is simply lost. Same can happen. I'm not saying that it will happen, but you're not under control. For example, what happens with Binance or what happens with Kraken.